Hey guys, EDDBUD here and welcome back to the channel. A running shoe review for you today, because I know that's what you like, gotta keep the people happy. Out for testing today was the Puma UltraRide. So I finally got out in this Optimus Prime style shoe. Never reviewed a Puma shoe before. There's some odd, innovative and downright audacious ideas going on here. Let's get into it. So this one weighs in my UK size 11, US size 12 at 300 grams, which is 10.6 ounces. We have a 12mm drop, you heard it here, 12mm. Though I've not found any very reliable stats about the actual stack height. So still a bit of a mystery, that one. Doesn't feel ridiculously high by any stretch of the imagination. I'd suggest this one is true to size. Certainly the 11 is absolutely fine for me. Ample wiggle room here in the toe box. Although I would suggest it does fit a little narrow, so if you have a wider foot, do be cautious. First run in the UltraRide was 7 miles, so 11.2 kilometers, an average pace of 7 minutes 45 per mile, 4 minutes 49 per kilometer. Though I've got to be honest with you, I went up through the gears in this one quite considerably towards the end of the run. First 3 miles were at about 8 minutes per mile, so nice steady easy pace for me, so that's around about 5 minutes per kilometer, and then I got progressively faster on the next 3 miles up to about 6 minutes 55 per mile, which is 4 minutes 18 per kilometer. So a good workout today in some rather blustery conditions. That's basically the default weather setting here in the southwest of the UK right now. I had gone out wearing a long sleeve boil in the bag high-vis jacket, which was one of the worst decisions of my entire life. But I took that off on mile 3 and decided to just absolutely hammer it. That's kind of how this shoe made me feel. Let's start with the upper first. So, gotta be honest, this Puma shoe is a very odd looking fish. You can't get away from it. Though I have to say, incredibly breathable in the upper. This mesh stuff, you can practically see through it. It's very strange. Almost chainmail-like in touch and appearance. You got that very, very flexible material here in the toe box, and then a very rigid heel counter. A real contradiction of build ideas here, but it really works. I found the upper fit really great, and that was mainly down to this very odd but effective lacing system. You got 3 lace loops which are stitched in on either side of the shoe, and then 3 more conventional eyelets here towards the area where you lace the shoe up. Tension was very consistent across the whole of my foot, and the tongue was spot on in terms of length and padding. There is a little reinforcement here in terms of a overlay in the toe box area. I think the heel's got most of the upper weight here in this shoe. I mean, it is a really rigid heel counter. You kind of need it because the rest of the upper is so flexible. I found it really easy to get a good lockdown in the Puma UltraRide. No messing around, and pressure was really even across my foot. Sometimes with a running shoe, it's really tough to get a consistent and measured kind of lockdown, but with this one, I just laced them up first time and was good to go. In coldish conditions this morning, when I got over to mile 3 or 4, it was chilly, but it was better than being boiled in that high-vis jacket. Why did I wear that this morning? I think it's a psychological thing. You look out the window and it's just dark out there. But as soon as I got out there, after the first mile, I thought, where can I dump this jacket? And then I remembered that I had my key in the jacket. Gotta be honest, very impressed with the upper on this shoe. At all paces, it felt very controlled. I didn't feel the upper giving at all over the miles. Although it looks a bit odd, it works, and that's what counts. So a point or 2 off here for the slightly over-engineered heel. I don't really think we need all of that rigidity. Perhaps the slightly 90s looks are going to be a bit polarizing, and the materials are a little bit coarse feeling. I'm going to give this a 2.6 out of 3 after my initial run for the upper. Midsole now. I mean, where do we start with this one? I mean, it's got this really weird cutout section here in the midsole. I mean, I've never ever seen a shoe like that before. As your foot hits the floor, you feel that definitive squish and a return where that gap is. Almost a bit like a catapult, I suppose. Although I'd suggest that feeling's only really prominent when you get above paces of 7 minutes 30 per mile. I mean, the shoe felt perfectly usable between 8 minutes 30 and 8 minutes per mile, just going easy pace. But at 7 minutes 30 per mile and above, it really did transform like Optimus Prime. The difference actually is quite tangible at that pace, and I had a big smile on my face as I was nearing 7 minutes per mile, as I could feel the midsole on that ProPlate cradle here around the midfoot really working well together. A nice smooth transition actually in this shoe, which oddly doesn't feel too forced or too over controlled. It just felt like I was in control of it rather than it was in control of me. I think if Puma were to utilise a slightly more compressive foam than the EVA used here with this setup, then I think it would be a champion shoe. I think the plate that's utilised here within the UltraRide is a TPU based one, so I'll be interested to see how it holds up over time in terms of durability and longevity. Initially though, I'm very impressed with this one, very snappy, very responsive. At faster speeds certainly, and it's a quite versatile midsole too. It didn't feel terrible at lower paces. Again, looks odd, but gets the job done in its own unique way. A bit like yours truly, really. So only a point or two off here for my durability and longevity concerns. We really don't know how it's going to hold up over time. But after my initial run, I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 3 for midsole. Outsole now. Okay, so this one reminds me a little bit of the Asics Nova Blast. A very flexible rubber outsole here, and Puma haven't been too overzealous with the rubber. It's not too thick. It's a really amazing rubber feel actually. There's loads of tiny little mottled patterned pieces. Really does present some excellent grip. You've got these big grooves cut out here. I mean, it's quite pronounced, this section here. It really does feel quite similar to the Nova Blast in that respect. I like the fact that Puma have tried to weight relieve the shoe as much as they can. It was a triumph today in the sludge areas of my well-worn path. And there was some assured grip on road and pavement sections. You can see a part of the plate actually through these cutouts here. It does remind me a little bit of the Carbon X actually in that respect. Got to be honest, it's hard to fault the outsole today. It wasn't the most ideal conditions for an outsole, and it held up really well. Felt really assured underfoot. I'd suggest this outsole here is far better than that on the Fuel Cell Rebel, for example. Bit slippery, that one in the wet. It's certainly quieter than the Tempo Next Percent. That's quite a loud shoe in certain conditions. This one's as silent as the local music venue currently. It almost felt like the outsole was pre-worn, I suppose. That's how it kind of feels under your fingers. Hard to fault here after my initial run. I'm going to give this a 2.8 out of 3 for the outsole. And you know how much effort I put into analysing these outsoles. This is a winner, I'm telling you. Value now. At 85 Earth credits, pounds or whatever you want to call them, it's pretty tough to fault this shoe really. I think if it maintains its consistency in the midsole, then it's hard to beat. As you saw by my stats over on Strava, it's capable of various different paces. Don't forget, this is an EDDBUD that had recently woken up. He wasn't up to top speed, and yet I managed to get close to my half marathon target pace there. Wasn't really trying that hard either. As I say, if that midsole retains its pop over time and the material that the lace loops are made out of hold up, along of course with that untested rubber, is it going to last the test of time? Only time will tell. How many times can I say time? I think we could be onto a winner there. I have to be honest, I picked this shoe up in a sale for £65. I feel like I got a bit of a bargain. But I think even at retail price, it's cheaper than Pegasus 37, the Nova Blast, the Run Fast 2, the Dyna Blast, the Evo Ride. Basically, all of the shoes. It's cheaper than all of them. I think with the shoe, it's really easy to judge a book by the cover and to actually get it on foot and test it out. Obviously, these are my initial views, so things could change over time. But I think it's a big thumbs up from me if you're after a versatile shoe that's relatively cheap. Great fit, some appropriate cushion here, and a few interesting bells and whistles. There's not really an awful lot to dislike here. I mean, there's no hype surrounding this shoe. Good value to be had in this one. So at the retail price with little information or experience to go on in terms of the durability we can expect from this one, I think I'm going to give it a 2.7 out of 3 for value. If I've totaled up the scores correctly, that gives us a 10.8 out of 12 after my initial run for the Puma UltraRide. Have you worn this shoe? Have you tried it out? I don't think many people have. If you've got any experience with it, let me know in the comments below. Musical interlude time. I really love Neil Young's ability as an artist to constantly change and sometimes polarize his audience. He certainly did that when he released This Note's For You back in 1988. I love the title track and the jazzy leanings. I love the horns all over this record. They are beautiful. Although bizarrely, it's the more chilled out tracks that I like the most. You can almost imagine Neil in this sort of smoky bar singing these tracks. Coupe de Ville and Can't Believe You're Lying are probably my two favourites. Although I really like Life in the City as well, that's got some real energy about it. I think this album was released after Neil had headed back to Reprise Records, or Reprise, I'm not entirely sure, it's Reprise over here in the UK, after he'd left Geffen Records, which was not a great period in his career. Definitely worth checking this one out though. This Note's For You by Neil Young. Right, it's about that time to go and eat some pizza and clear the decks ready for when my PlayStation 5 arrives. Hope my wife's not watching this. If you're new to the channel and you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when we launch those new videos. It really helps the channel out too if you give this video a thumbs up like and share this video with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you